food and coal sorted out. The next priority was to expand the automated workforce. And that was no simple task, considering how much it requires to make one. I wasn't thinking in terms of economics, although in the pre-Frost economy, the materials would be rather expensive, certainly the steel. Well, regardless, it requires much to make one of them. And although research could be taken to streamline the process, the leader of the Seedling Arks city, well, he hadn't considered this at this point. As for the next research project, it would be... and he wasn't... well, he decided to have someone find a way of making coal mining more efficient. A good thing to do, considering at this point it was the only source of coal. Well, besides the scouts that arrive here with supplies. And he wisely decided not to recall them too soon. Make sure they have plenty of supplies arriving. Supplies that could be used. And it was decided that no more scouts would be sent out unless there was enough of a workforce to replace them in terms of labour. There was enough food to sustain the Seedling Arks city, but not much more than that, sadly. He knew that this would have to change quickly. Along with the supply of coal, because even with yes, at this point, the automaton needed to test the efficiency enhancing that this engineer was working on, and that one was not working the previous day. This day it would be the automaton that would be out of work for a day, as it was experimented on. Greater efficiency was clearly considered worth the risk. Especially as there were so few human workers to go around. The consumption of coal was barely enough. To keep it even. And the food was all made into rations, so the engineers could be reassigned to a workshop. Well, it couldn't hurt to speed up research, which made the coal flow in a little quicker. As for what to research next, that was difficult considering the lack of steel. With so few automatons to spare, well, that would require waiting for the automaton to be built in the factory. Which at this point it had. More automatons were needed, though. And that would mean more steel was needed as a consequence. Although more steel was needed for research as well. The newly made automaton was sent to the steelworks. While the work shifts were allocated. And with the food supply issue no longer being a problem, it was decided that standard meals were viable. Well, viable enough to have enough to go around. The factory was shut down. At least until there was a need for it. And apparently there could be automaton scouts. Although that wasn't chosen next. Although what was chosen Well, it was a hard decision. Yes, I understand the uncertainty, although a better sawmill was considered a good thing to have. Because it meant that wood could be gathered faster. And wood was needed quite a bit more than steel for a number of things. In fact, it could even solve the fuel problem later on. Well, I haven't read that far ahead yet, so I'm not sure whether or not this leader of the Seedling Arks city did that. Although a few got sick at this, during this night. As for the next law to sign, it was one for a care house.
Listen, everyone. New law is signed.
Well, it'd be best to plan ahead. And it wouldn't be as if, well, they'd run out of space with that. There aren't that many that would be incapacitated. At least let's hope not, because if that many got incapacitated at once, it would spell doom for what they were working on. Preserving as much of the pre-frost... yes, words are failing me. Pre-frost plant life as possible. Making sure that the arks didn't get too cold. In fact, it would necessitate a stronger heat setting on the generator in order to, well, make sure it kept warm. A good thing to do for anything that is still alive. Cold temperatures are for keeping things edible. In the pre-frost world, I believe that they imported ice from Norway. Well, ice where we are, at least for the foreseeable future, is plentiful. In fact, there's a bit too much of it, although the promise to build a care home was, well, care house, was easily kept.
Work time. Get back
The Seedling Arks city noticed the storm approaching long before we did. Although that didn't make preparation for it any easier. Some rations were spared to speed the recovery of the sick. This was considering that at least one of them was an engineer in the workshops. Temperature decrease was nearing. And soon would be a good time to, well, not only have more heat all round, but also better insulation. Well, better heat for the arks, but also for those actually living near the generator. As for what to research next, well, better steelworks. That's something that would be nice. He certainly thought so, as that was next to be researched. Although a steam core was needed, as this engineer, in the process of working out how to make the automatons more efficient, broke it and needed to repair it. This leader, after careful consideration, he agreed. As the automatons were needed. As for the automaton that was out of action the previous day, the question was where to assign it. And the decision was, at this point anyway, to assign it to gathering wood. something that was in short supply. At least, short in storage. As for supply, that wouldn't be as much of a problem. And by this point, the plan was to, well, it can wait. The Barren Hollows was a landmark, nothing more. Although where to go next was some industrial ruins in the on the horizon. Yes, that's a better way of putting it. Right, where were we?
Finish your labors, people.
Oh yes.
The workday is up.
Making the automatons more efficient in both construction and working. Would be nice to have. Although that would require working on the next tier of technological developments. And like the automatons themselves, that doesn't come cheap. Night was largely uneventful. Automatons were working, people were sleeping, or eating, or making their own entertainment. But that changed when the scouts reached the industrial ruins. First the remains of the dreadnought, and then people buried alive. Unfortunate, but they were unable to do anything. Vital supplies were found, although it was too soon to return to the Seedling Arks city with them. It was considered a bad idea to return with them too soon. Especially considering that the farther away they are, the more time it takes to get back. Even when heading back to the point of origin.
Wrap up well. The frost is here.
By this point, the situation was growing dire indeed. As not only would there be one more decrease in temperature after it rose again, but a greater decrease was to follow. Insulation and greater heat was needed more than ever. Well, at least we can't say that we had a monopoly on bad things happening to us. Because, as we already know, it can always get worse. More so than we anticipate.